This is Roy Kessel live from Radio Row at Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans on behalf of Sports Philanthropy Network. And we're very excited to have with us today Danny Teinowitz. Danny is a longtime friend and is doing some amazing work in the nonprofit area. So, Danny, welcome to the show. We appreciate you being here, and I want you to tell everybody the work that you're doing with the Jockey Association.
Thank you very much, Roy, and it's great to be with you here at Super Bowl 59 live at New Orleans, Radio Row. So I became involved with a charity. There's a wonderful charity. It's the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, the PDJF. And it's a 501c3 public charity which provides financial assistance to jockeys who have suffered catastrophic on-track injuries. Since 2006, the fund has distributed approximately $14 million to jockeys, many of whom were injured, who have suffered either paralysis or brain injuries. And most of these jockeys are in their 20s or 30s, and they face decades of needs for medical care, and they haven't built the financial cushion which will support them into their middle ages and beyond.
I think one of the things that's not appreciated, right? Horse racing gets covered as a sport, some very high profile events that people are very well familiar with. But what people don't see is how much hard work the jockeys put in behind the scenes, how many hours, how many rides that they have. And so, unlike football, where if there's a catastrophic injury, right, it's on national TV, it's covered on ESPN, Fox Sports. You're going to see the replays of Damar Hamlin. You're going to see the replays of other catastrophic injuries over and over and over. When a jockey gets knocked off a horse in the middle of a race, that's a high fall, right? And they don't have the same type of headgear that football players are wearing.
Roy, your comments are spot on. Usually, when a jockey suffers an injury in a race, jockey falls and either it makes contact with the ground and/or is maybe stepped on by a horse. No one really sees the injury, and the jockey's carted off. These jockeys are the horses are magnificent, courageous animals, and horse racing is a magnificent, wonderful sport. But horse racing is really a people business. It's about the people who work with the horses and make them the best athletes they can be. And so we have the unsung heroes are the trainers and the exercise riders and the grooms who take care of the horses 24 hours around the clock. And of course the jockeys. And so when the jockeys are injured, they have needs and they're no longer in the limelight. And these jockeys require caregivers and assistants, and many of them require special handicap accessible residences in which they can live.
Well, I think one of the things that's not understood in this space, right? You talk about this. Those needs, those expenses are life changing, right? These are not individuals that are earning millions and millions of dollars a year that can afford to take care of those types of level of care and expenses. So talk a bit about the fund and how you got involved with it.
Well, I've gotten involved with it because my family was involved in thoroughbred horse racing and thoroughbred horse breeding. So early on, in addition for having a passion for football and basketball, baseball, hockey, I also, as a child of a single digit age, I had a great passion for thoroughbred horse racing and loved going in the mornings to watch the workouts and going to the races in the afternoon and going to some tracks out of state when we were on vacation with the family. So in terms of being involved with it, that's where it began. And the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund raises money. There's an endowment. There's charitable donations, and also there's an event with which I've become involved, which is the Jockeys and Jeans event, which is an annual event, and I've been attending the event since 2017. And it rotates like the Super Bowl. It rotates. It goes to a different track in a different city every year. And typically at that event, it's held on a race day on a Saturday at a major track like, Santa Anita in California or Gulfstream, or it's been at Parks Racing and Canterbury in Minnesota and Monmouth in New Jersey, etc. But typically at that event attracts probably a dozen or more Hall of Fame jockeys. So just imagine if you had a dozen NFL Hall of Famers coming to an event. That would be a great attraction. So there's probably 12 to 15 Hall of Fame jockeys come to the event. People buy tickets. People make donations. There's a live auction. There's a silent auction. And also, people also make donations. There's a thing called a stallion season where the owner of a broodmare pays a fee for a stallion to breed to the mare. Well, people buy seasons, and that money, the farms donate seasons, and the money is donated to the PDJF to help the permanently disabled and injured jockeys.
So when you look at the scale of the PDJF, you talked about races, right, all over the country, different organizations that are involved in helping raise that money. Talk a bit about the size of the fund and the grants that are made on an annual basis.
Well, on an annual basis, I know statistically is that since 2006, there's been at least $14 million raised, and that amount could be 10 or 20 or even 25% higher than that now. That's just an approximation. And in terms of over the season, people might pay 5 or 10 or $25,000 to breed to a stallion. So that money has gone, to it. So many of the horsemen, breeders, owners, trainers make valuable contributions to the fund. The jockeys give their time. The Hall of Fame jockeys come to the event annually and they sign a poster, they sign a commemorative poster, they sign trading cards, they sign memorabilia, photographs of winning horse races, halters, boots. I know there's been some boots and things signed by like all the living Kentucky Derby winning jockeys, all the living Triple Crown winning jockeys. So there's a great contribution. It really takes a village. It's really a massive contribution, and there are so many fans of horse racing. At one point in this country, probably in the 40s or 50s, I believe the number one and number two sports in the United States were boxing and horse racing, and that's certainly not the case right now. And they're both wonderful sports, but they're certainly not one and two right now.
And I think that goes to the evolving tastes and culture, right? You look at the violence, you look at the impact, you look at the life changing tragedies that occur in each of those scenarios. But, I think that what's really important here is the work that you're doing to help these lives, to help these jockeys, right? Again, these are not individuals that have made millions or tens of millions of dollars. So they're really going from just scraping by because they're a jockey in the first place, right? To now having to scrape by just to pay the expenses to live.
That's absolutely correct, Roy. And I'm certainly making a contribution, but I would say that my contribution is relatively small, if not minuscule, to all the people who are donating all their valuable time and whatever money they can, and certainly people who can afford to contribute more perhaps do contribute more, but there are some people giving contributions, and it's such a worthy cause. It's the Permanently Disabled Jockeys Fund, PDJF. The annual event is Jockeys and Jeans, which I believe is going to be held next February, is the next one.
Danny, thank you so much for joining us at Sports Philanthropy Network. We appreciate you putting up your card for the Wall of Philanthropy and appreciate your time today.
Roy, thank you so much. Thank you for everything you're doing with the Sports Philanthropy Network, and it's an honor to be interviewed by you. Hope this is the beginning of a new and proud tradition. Thank you.
And for all of our viewers and listeners, this is Roy Kessel live for Sports Philanthropy Network at Radio Row, Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, reminding you to live generously.